Hello, guys. Good afternoon. This is Dr. Pooja, and I'm here again to discuss another important topic, which is sound. All right. So, in this chapter, we will talk all the aspects of sound, like how sound is produced, what are the different characteristics of sound, what is the hearing range of human ear, what are the different paths of human ear. So quickly we will go over all the important concepts of sound. I hope you guys will enjoy this session, so let's get started. Okay, and first of all, before we get into the details, it's, I guess, important for you guys to know more about your educator. Okay, so my name is Dr. Pooja, as you guys know me, and I've done PhD in biotechnology, and within 8 years of experience as a scientist in the United States of America. I'm sorry I don't have my picture here, but I will upload pretty soon. Okay, so now I am with Unacademy, and I teach you guys physics, chemistry, and biology on Unacademy's platform. So apart from that, I'm also an online international certified online fitness trainer or influencer. So what is the benefit of that to you? If you join an academy with me, I take special classes, and those special classes, they most of the time revolve around how to stay fit and how to stay healthy. And not only that, how to focus more on your studies, how to deal with examination stress if you guys have it, but otherwise I don't believe in any term called stress. Okay, so that was a little bit introduction about me, and currently on Unacademy we are doing some batch courses where you can get benefit of learning different subjects with us, not only science but other important subjects. For example, your English, your mathematics, your languages, social studies. So I would definitely highly encourage you guys to be part of our batch courses if you want to learn more with us. Okay, so that was a little brief introduction about me. So I guess now you guys are all set to start with our today's exciting lecture, which is all about sound. Okay, I hope you are going to love this, because sound plays a very important role in our daily life. Whatever we listen to great music, we listen to our favorite lecture, we listen to our favorite we watch our favorite movies. Imagine if there is no sound there. Imagine if we don't have this important sense that God has gifted us with, how the world would look like, right, without sound. So it is very important for all of us to understand what exactly is sound, how it is produced, and how it travels from one person, or let's say from its origin to our ears, and how our brain it interprets this important sense. Okay, so let's dig into it more, and let's understand sound in a better way. Okay, so first of all, as I said, whatever you see around you, okay, whatever produces sound, I don't know whether you have observed it or not, but now onwards, if you want, you can start observing it. So whatever produces sound, that means there is some kind of energy involved in it. There is some energy involved in producing sound. So which means sound is nothing but it is a form of energy. You clap your hands, which means you are using your muscular energy, which we call, let's say, mechanical energy, to produce that sound. Let's say I'm talking, I'm using energy to talk. Let's say we are playing some guitar or violin or tabla or anything. Again, some energy is being used, right? So as we have learned in our previous chapters, this is under transformation of energy. It is just one form of energy which is getting converted into another form of energy. It is not like sound is being produced from out of nowhere, right? So that is what we call transformation of energy, one form of energy getting converted into another form of energy. So sound is, again, as I'm saying, is a form of energy. But what kind of energy is that? Okay, that is important again. What kind of energy is it? Right? So let's do a couple of activities. If you go ahead and check your NCRT book, that is majorly I refer to this book. So if you go ahead and check with your NCRT book, you will find there are a couple of activities that they have mentioned. There is a tuning fork. So this kind of instrument is what we call a tuning fork. All right, and you hit it on let's say a rubber pad, right? And you try to bring it closer to let's say a glass of water, right? So this is glass full of water, and you will see when you hit it on a rubber pad, it starts vibrating. So this is very important. It starts vibrating. Okay, and when you bring it to this glass of water, you must have seen, if you bring it closer to this glass of water, you will see the water level also starts changing, or we can say another way, it also starts vibrating, right? So that means if the sound is there, so we can correlate the sound to vibration, right? Now see, as I'm talking, if I put my hand over my throat, I will feel a kind of vibration. Okay, and similarly, if let's say there is somebody is playing violin, somebody is playing guitar, and let's say you guys are clapping, okay, and let's say the leaves of the tree, they are moving faster with the wind. So all these activities, in all these activities, you will see there is some kind of vibration. So we can conclude that, or let's go one step back. Let's say we have this string on the violin, right? We hit the string with our hand, we try to move it with our finger, and we can hear a sound, right? But now let's do one thing. Let's tighten that string too much, or maybe hold that string so that it cannot vibrate. So what will happen? There will not be any kind of production of sound. So what we can say is vibration is required for the sound to be produced. So that is the take home message, like vibration is for sure required for the sound to be produced. So that is point number one. Point number two is, let's say violin is playing, right? And the vibration is there and the sound is there. But how is this sound reaching our ears, right? So that is another important question. Like sound has been produced from, let's say this is the origin point and this is our ear. Origin. So how come sound is traveling? How come the sound is traveling? So now there comes another point, and that is after vibration, sound needs a medium to travel. Okay, sound waves, they need a medium to travel. So we have learned 2 points so far. One is sound is produced when there is a kind of vibration, and the second point that we have learned is sound needs a medium to travel. Now there is an important question, why there is a need of the medium. So let me write it down. So why it needs a medium. That is another important question, why the propagation of sound, it needs a medium. So what happens is, let's say this is the origin. I will just draw a tuning fork. Let's say this is the origin of the sound, and let's say this is our ear. Because why I'm talking about ear, because we have to listen to that sound, we have to hear that sound, and that sound we can only hear if we have an ear, the device to detect the sound waves. Okay, so now let's say this was the origin of the sound. We have this tuning fork, or you can just take an example of anything. You can take an example of violin or guitar or anything, right? So it starts producing sound, it starts vibrating. So that is what we have learned, right? It starts vibrating. Now as it vibrates, so there are particles in the air, right? So these particles present in the air, as this fork vibrates from this to this is called vibration. What is vibration? When something like this, let's say this is the middle point, it moves on this direction, and then it moves on this direction, then comes on the center. Like from here goes this side, this side, this side, this side, this side, this side. This is called vibration, or this is called oscillation. It is oscillating. If you have seen a pendulum, so that is exactly the vibration or the oscillation is. Okay, so let's say in this medium over here, so this is the medium, we will call it a medium. Air is a medium in this case, right? And these particles could be air particles or dust particles or anything present in the medium. As this thing oscillates, these particles, they also start oscillating. Okay, now you have to remember one thing. These particles don't move from here to our ear. This is not true. These particles, they don't move. So I will write it down. Particles don't move from origin to ear. So what moves from origin to ear is the disturbance. The disturbance that they have caused, that moves from the origin to ear, from here to here. So as these particles are oscillating, like this particle over here is oscillating from here to here and here to here, it causes a wave of disturbance, right? It causes the wave of disturbance. And how does this wave look like? What does this wave look like? Let me draw it. So when we have it, let's say there is a fork over here, and there are certain areas where these particles are so densely packed, and there are, because they are oscillating, and there are areas less dense. Again, there is area where they are very tightly packed, again less densely packed. Okay, so this kind of disturbance of thick and thin areas, because the particles are moving, right? This is called compression. So this could be a 1-mark question. And where they are loosely packed, that is called rarefaction, right? So we have compression and we have rarefaction. Compression is where they are very tightly packed. Rarefaction where they are, not very tightly packed. They have, less density, right? So this alternate compression, we represent compression by C, and we represent rarefaction by R. So there are alternate compression, rarefaction areas which are generated from the origin to the ear. And as it reaches our ear, it sends signal to our brain and it gets processed, and we are able to hear a sound, right? So this was all about like how the sounds, they are originated and how they are propagated, right? The originated means they originate by vibration. Propagated means they need a medium for the propagation. So now medium could be anything. So this medium could be anything. It could be solids, it could be liquids, it could be gases. Because solids, liquid, gases, they all have particles, but because what we exactly need is we need disturbance. So disturbance will be there if particles are there. So particles, we have particles present in case of solids, in case of liquids, in case of gases. But if there is vacuum, there will not be any sound. Why? Because sound waves, they need a medium to travel. They need this kind of disturbance of the particles to be there to get propagated, right? So if there is no particle, if it is vacuum, then there will not be propagation of sound. So that is the key point that we have discussed. And now in your NCERT book, there is another what we call, let me see, there is another activity which tells you about, hold on, let me erase a couple of things, right? So in your NCERT book, so there is a couple of things mentioned, like the activity to show that we need a medium for the waves, sound waves to travel, because light waves, we don't need a medium. If there is no medium, then we don't need, light waves will still be able to travel through that. So in your book, there is an experiment, there is a small setup. So this is a bell jar, okay? So bell jar, what it has a kind of bell over here, okay? So when it hits it, and it is connected to a vacuum machine, right? So a vacuum pump, right? And this is the electric connection, and this is the bell over here, right? So this is the bell, and when we turn the switch on, you will be able to hear a sound. Now what we are doing by using this vacuum, there is air present, right? We all know that. Even it is empty, but still there is air present. There are particles present. And as these particles vibrate, they vibrate this glass material, and the sound comes out, and we are able to hear this sound. But what happens as we are creating a vacuum, that means we are getting rid of these particles. Okay, so there are no particles when we are using vacuum. So when the vacuum is there, there are no particles, and eventually there will be no sound. So this setup, this little experiment tells us that sound needs a medium to travel, and it could be a solid medium, a liquid medium, or a gaseous medium. In vacuum, there is no propagation of sound. All right, so these were just quickly about how sound travels, what is sound, how it is originated, how it's propagated, what all it needs to propagate. Okay, so quickly we have discussed all these important points, but now let's discuss characteristics of sound. So this is again important topic, but before we do that, let me have a sip of water. So characteristics of sound, let's discuss that in more details. So what are the important characteristics that we are going to cover here? A is what is wavelength of sound. B, what is frequency of sound? What is, let's say, amplitude amplitude of sound, and then we will discuss also time period. We will discuss what is pitch, what is a tone, what is a note, right? So these are the points that we will be discussing when it comes to the characteristics of sound. All right, so let's first discuss what is wavelength quickly. All right, so as we have said, like there are different regions. I'm quickly drawing the regions for you, the C's and R's. So this is the denser region, and this is rare. Again denser, and again rare, denser, okay. So this is compression, rarefaction, compression, rarefaction, and compression, right? So these are the regions of when we talk about wave, right? And when we draw this, okay, I have drawn it incorrectly. Let me take a razor. Yeah. I had to draw it. Okay, so thank God I've drawn it well. Okay, so we have it over here, and yeah, so this is a sound wave. So the compression and rarefaction, we can also call them crests and troughs. So all these are crest and these are troughs, right? The distance between two consecutive crests or the distance between two consecutive troughs is called wavelength, and we represent wavelength by lambda. So let me show you on next page. So I will be going back and forth to that page. So wavelength is the distance between, we represent it by lambda, and it's the distance between two consecutive crests or troughs. So it is two consecutive. I will write it also, which means right next to one another. It's not like you take a distance between, between crest number 1, this is 2, and this is 3. It is not like you take the distance between 1 and 3. That is not consecutive. Consecutive means closer to each other, the next one, right? So here we take the distance between these two consecutive crests or these two consecutive troughs is called the wavelength of the sound wave, right? So this is one point clear. Next is, this is the frequency. So what is frequency? When something is passing through a point, right, in a given time, that is called how many times it is passing through a given point in a given time. As we know, like we said, these oscillates, right? Particles go from here to here, from here to here, and this is what we call how many times this particular particle it moves in a given amount of time. That is the frequency of the wave. For example, I ask you to play on a drum, right? In, let's say, 1 minute, how many times you hit the drum is your frequency. Okay, let's say you are hitting it faster. Let's say you are hitting it 60 times, or let's say you are hitting it only 10 times in a 1 minute. So here you have high frequency, means how frequently you are doing it. Here you have low frequency. Okay, so that is also good for when we talk about the waves, how frequently that particle is passing through a given point in a given unit of time, and it is represented by nu. So this is nu, right? That is the Greek word, Greek symbol nu, and frequency, the units are hertz, right? The units are hertz, like how many hertz are there. So this was all about frequency. And what is amplitude? Amplitude is like, amplitude tells you the how loud the sound is, how hard you hit the drum. When you are hitting the drum, how hard you hit the drum, that is the amplitude, which means how far this particle goes on this side or on this side, that is the amplitude. Okay, and when you are closer to the origin of the sound, the amplitude is going to be higher because it is of high sound. Okay, so that is what we call amplitude. And let's say, what is pitch? Then another point is, amplitude is done, time period I'll cover in a minute. What is pitch? Pitch is like, you must have heard, like if you are sitting in a room and there is an orchestra playing, all different instruments, they are creating all different kind of sounds, right? Some sounds are like really sharp, some sounds are like really hard and with a greater bass. So that is what we call the pitch. For example, let me delete a couple of points from here. Let me delete the whole thing, okay? All right, so now we will discuss what is pitch. So now we have, let's say, we have something like this, and there is a wave of low frequency and there is a wave of high frequency, which means, let's say this is a time of, for example, let's say 1 second. This is also, let's say, 1 second. In 1 second, it passes only 2 times. In 1 second, let's say it passes 10 times, though I'm not counting these numbers. So this one, wave number B, is having high pitch, and it is also having high frequency. You see, in 1 second it is passing 10 times. In 1 second it's passing only 2 times. So this is with low frequency and low pitch, right? So that is what we call pitch. All right, now let's discuss the time period. So time period is, we call it frequency in a given time. How many times, what is the frequency, how many times that wave passed through that point. So that is the time period that we call. Okay, so we have covered almost all the points. And yes, then note and tone. A sound of single frequency is called a tone. So on previous slide, tone is when we have something of single frequency, right? And note, many frequencies. Sound, if we have, that is called a note. So when we listen to a song, when we listen to some music, so that means that is a note, and tone is just one single frequency. Okay, so this was quickly all about the sound that I have covered. And now let's talk about reflection of, I'm sorry, I have to write it, reflection of sound. So that is another important point that I want to discuss. So guys, as we have discussed when we were talking about chapter light, so we knew that when we have light, this is the incident ray. Let's say this is the surface. It could be a mirror. Let's talk about, let's say this is a mirror, right? When the light ray and here I'm talking about light ray. When the light ray hits a surface, a polished surface, a mirror surface, it gets reflected. It hits, this is called incident ray, because it is incidenting, it's hitting a surface, and this is a reflected ray, right? And there is a normal that we call, so this is normal. So what we see, the angle of incidence, which is I, and the angle of reflection, which is R, I is equal to R, right? Angle of incidence, angle of reflection is same. And the second point is the incident ray, the normal and the reflected ray, they all are on one plane. Okay, so this was about light. But how about sound? How about sound? Does sound also get reflected? Does the sound, is there any phenomena called reflection that appears in sound as well? So again in your book there is an experiment given where we have this kind of setup where we have this wall, okay, and let's say we have this table. On this table we have this little pipe, okay, because sound waves we have to pass through a pipe. Let's say we have a clock over here, so this little thing is my clock, okay, so this is a clock, and we will set an alarm which will tick, right? So now the sound waves are entering and they are traveling, okay. Then we will have another tube like structure, and then we have to place our ear over here, okay. So we will have to adjust this pipe over here, right? We will have to make certain adjustments to this pipe. So when we are adjusting, we have to stop where we can hear the sound very loud and very clear. And when we do this, at the end, when we adjust it here by moving it here and here, at the end, what do we observe? And I will show that somewhere here. So what do we observe? The sound waves, they travel, and if there is a surface over here, it will hit that surface and it will get reflected. So that means, had it been like no effect, we could have heard this sound wave, you know, same at same pitch and same sound and clear at all the points. But that is not right. We had to adjust, you know, this pipe number 2 over here, this is pipe number 2 over here, to listen the sound clearly, right? So this is what we call reflection, and we say this is the incident ray of sound and this is the reflected ray of sound, and again there is a normal that we can draw, and the angle of incident and the angle of reflection, they are again going to be the same. So this was also about reflection of sound, okay. So now next question is, what are the uses, or what are the important points that we have to remember due to this reflection property of sound, because sound gets reflected. So what all do we have to remember? So first thing is, when you must have seen stethoscope, right? What happens is that doctors, they place a pipe on the chest of the patient and he can listen to the sound, but how the sound is traveling, again it is getting, you know, reflected through the pipe, and then you can hear the sound. So this is multiple reflections that take place through this stethoscope, as in this is the pipe of that, this is the, where is my pen? This is the pipe of that stethoscope. It is very sensitive. Second is like when you have those trumpets, right? You have loudspeakers, right? You know how those are placed and how those are able to create more sound. So that is again because of reflection. Their surface, their, you know, let's say this is a trumpet. It's something like this, like it gets reflected, it hits that surface, gets reflected, and it all points at one point. So that is another, you know, feature that we use of sound in our daily life. And the third and the most important that I see is the most important, if you have in cinemas or in theaters, if you see, what happens is, if let's say this is the sound source, they have the ceiling kind of curved, right? So that sound waves, let me draw it more clearly, I'm so sorry. So they have this kind of arrangement, sorry. So they have this kind of arrangement. For example, there is a sound source over here. So they have this ceiling, so that like here is the sitting arrangement, okay? So they have this kind of ceiling so that it gets, it hits that and it gets reflected. It's kind of curved, right? So that sound waves, they can reach each and every corner of that theater, right? So that is the, again, this phenomena of reflection of sound waves that we use in theaters and in cinemas. Okay, so this was quickly about it. And now, oh, I'm sorry. Now let's move on to the next topic, which is, what is a range of hearing? Can we hear all the sounds, or I mean how it works? So you must have seen like some, when there is earthquake, right? Some of the animals, they start moving around, right? Some, because they can hear or they can listen to those supersonic, those what we call ultrasonic or infrasonic sound waves which are being produced. Okay, so that means there has to be a hearing range for us humans. So it's 20 to 20,000 hertz, right? 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz, or 20 kilohertz we can call it. So this is a normal hearing range. Okay, so but in small, very small babies, when it's a small kid, they can hear somewhere around 25 kilohertz as well. They can hear, they can listen to very feeble sounds, or sounds which are above this range. So now we said we have this range 20 to 20,000 hertz, that is the frequency. Whatever is under this is called infrasonic, and whatever is above this is called ultrasonic, right? It is above and this is below. So human ear can hear between this. This is human ear range. Okay, but as I said, we have certain organisms, for example, rhinoceros, I hope I spelled it right, can hear even 5 hertz. Then we have whales and elephants. Why I'm writing this is, This is again going to be a 1 mark question. Which of these organisms can listen to infrasonic? And how about ultrasonic? We have bats, we have dolphins, and we have porpoises, right? So these organisms, they can hear to the sound which is more than 20,000 hertz. Okay, so these sounds are called ultrasonic, and when it is less than 20 hertz, it is called infrasonic. So it is not just us, but there are certain organisms who can hear below and above this range. Okay, so this was all about it. And now, of course, infrasonic is not of any specific use, but yes, ultrasonic, it is used in various areas. So let's quickly discuss uses of ultrasonic waves. Okay, you must have heard this word ultrasound. Like when somebody is not feeling well, they have pain in their body internally, and when somebody is pregnant, right, when they have issues with their heart, doctors, they say, okay, you need to get some ultrasound done. So what is this ultrasound? In ultrasound, more than that 20,000 hertz sound waves are passed through your body, and images are being produced, and these images can tell you if there is any kind of defect in the human body. Okay, second major use of ultrasound is like in cleaning. So there are like ornaments, and if I not talk about ornaments, let's say many parts, very delicate or very small parts of certain electronic devices or certain other things which we cannot clean otherwise. So there also we use ultrasound, because ultrasound is what? Ultrasound is kind of vibration, and when something vibrates, it is used for the cleaning purposes. Okay, so that is part number 2. Part number 3 is if we want to detect defect detection in case of any metal blocks that we use in our bigger buildings. So see if there is any defect in the metal blocks in the buildings that we are making, then of course this building can collapse. So how can we detect it? So what we do is, let's say there is a metal block over here that we want to detect for the defect, and let's say there is a defect, there is a gap over here, let's say there is a gap over. What we do, we pass the sound waves, ultrasound. So these waves will go over here and they will be detected. So this is a detector. But these waves, when they hit this defect, they come back, and there will be a gap in the imaging. I hope you understood this, right? So when there is a gap in the imaging, this area will tell us like there is a defect present in the metal block, and this metal block should not be used in creating the building, right? So these were a couple of important points that we have. The most important point that we use the ultrasound for is sonars. So what are sonars? Let's talk about it. Sound navigation, and ranging. right? So that is what we call not sonar, sonar. Okay, sound, SO, sound, N for navigation, A for ant, R for ranging. There we use ultrasound. So what does this mean? Let's say if we want to detect a drowned ship, let's say we want to detect some kind of submarine, we want to detect the depth of the sea, right? Otherwise we cannot, how deep we can go in the sea, right? We cannot go because it is too dark there. We cannot see with the light and other things. So there we use this ultrasound device, which is what we call sonars, sound navigation and ranging, to do all these activities. So how is it done? So for example, we have this ship over here which has this sonar system loaded with it. So let's say we want to see so this is water, too dark, and this is the seabed, right? Let's say we want to see the depth of this sea, or we want to see like if there is something got drowned in sea and something is present in the sea, then this is the device that we use. So here we have the transmitters. So there is the transmitter, right? It will send the ultrasound, right, into the sea, and after hitting again there is another what we call phenomena, reflection. Because of reflection of sound waves, it will come back and it will be detected by the, so let's say this is detector, and let's say this was transmitter, right? So as it is getting detected, so that means the time it takes to come back, okay, that is the major point. So it is like, otherwise distance, we have velocity is equal to distance by time, right? But here we want to, because it is double the distance, one distance as it reaches down, and same distance it covers when it comes back, right? So we have 2d, right? So distance we can calculate 2d, the velocity of the ultrasound waves divided by the time taken, and this will give us how far is the seabed. Okay, so this is a greater device. In your higher classes you will get into more details of this, like how sonars work, and I just gave you a very basic idea like what is the theory behind the sonars. Okay, now we have two more important points that we would love, I would love to discuss with you, and that is echo. What is echo? All right, you must have experienced echo when you are, let's say, standing on a building, and there is another building, and then, or maybe a mountain, you see, or you I'm sorry, you listen to a second same kind of sound, right? Why is it so? And that is called echo. So what happens is, when you say something, the sound waves go, they hit that building, and they come back. Okay, so our brain can process a second sound only after 0.1 seconds. So this much time our brain needs to process a sound wave. Okay, and if the other sound comes to our ear after 0.1 second, then we hear it as a second sound. So that is what we call echo. So how far, what should be the distance then? What should be the distance to listen to an echo? Okay, let's do that quickly, and that is an important question. So we know that, as I said, brain's processing time is 0.1 second, and a very basic idea is sound travels 344 meter per second in air at normal temperature. Okay, and so we know that velocity is equal to distance into distance by time. So now we have how much distance has to be there for us to hear another echo. So velocity is 344 into 0.1 seconds. So it will be 34.4 meters, right? So 34.4 meters has to be the total distance. So it is not just because sound has to go, it is the total. Because sound has to go and it has to go and it has to come back. So we'll have to divide it by 2. That will be, 17.2 meter. This mountain has to be 17.2 meter away from us so that sound wave goes in this direction in 17.2 meters and then it comes back within 0.1 second and will be able to hear the second sound. Okay, so this was quickly about how we hear the echoes. Right, now let's go on to the last topic of today's lecture, and that is structure of ear. So human ear, it can be divided into 3 parts. The external ear, external means outer. Then we have middle ear. And then we have inner ear. So the whole function of the outer ear is to collect the sound waves, right? And we have the ear pinna that we see from externally, that is what we exactly call ear. And then we have ear canal, and that canal is like the passage through which the sound waves they will travel. And then middle ear is made up of ear drum and the bones. These are called stapes. So these are the smallest bones present in human ear, right? And these bones are there. This one, the drum that we have, it vibrates, because as we know, vibration is important. This drum will vibrate, and these bones, the little bones, they act as amplifier, right? They act as amplifier to amplify the sound waves that we are getting. So the inner ear, it has what we call cochlea, vestibule is there. So these help us, and they are also connected to the auditory nerve, so which takes the signal to the brain, and that is where the sound signal, it gets processed and we hear a sound. Okay, so quickly we have covered everything related to sound, and let's do a quick recap that we have learned. We have learned that sound is produced by vibration. We have learned that sound needs a medium to travel. We have learned what is frequency, what is wavelength, what is amplitude, what is compression and rarefactions. Okay, and then we talked about sound waves, they also get reflected. We talked about the hearing range 20 to 20,000 hertz. We also talked about what echo is. We also talked about what is infrasonic and ultrasonic sounds. We also talked about where do we use the ultrasonic sounds, right? And then at the end we discussed about the human ear. So this was quickly about this chapter, what we call sound. So you guys can go over this video, and if you don't understand anything, you can ask me anything in the comment sections, or you can always reach out to us on Unacademy if you want us to clarify your doubts. And here is the code that you can use to sign up on Unacademy. Then how to do this sign up thingy? We have Unacademy's website, we have Unacademy's I will not give you any homework. We'll have Unacademy's app. So what are the uses or what are the benefits of signing up with batch courses on Unacademy? You can go for subscription plans. We have from 1 month to 4 years plans, right? And when you subscribe, you will get a creative corner absolutely free, because at Unacademy we are not only teaching you the bookish knowledge, we'll give you much more than that. And in the batch, what will you have? You will have live classes, weekly quizzes, doubt solving classes, your practice questions, and the test series. All right, so and what exactly is there in the creative corner? We have this Vedic math, doodling, public speaking, origami, magic tricks, poetry, storytelling, robotics, mnemonics, and debating. So this all is going to be yours if you go ahead and subscribe for our batch courses. You really don't have to do anything too difficult. You just have to download the Unacademy app, or maybe you can go to www.unacademy.com, and there you can go for the prime batches, the precision batches. We crack NCRT, we crack CBSE there. Here are the ongoing batches, here are the upcoming batches. And I would personally strongly recommend you guys, like if you want to learn really the math, the science, English, SSC, French, and Hindi with us, go ahead and subscribe at unacademy.com. This is the best decision that you can take for yourself. Okay, so with that said, guys, I will end this session. And as I said already, if you have any questions, any queries, please feel free to write to us. You can leave the comments in the comment section, and we'll get back to you with your answers. And if you really want a detailed coverage of each and every chapter, you have more questions, you have more concerns, you want to be in our batches and you want to revise different things, then you will have to subscribe, you will have to download our app and our Unacademy app, and then you can be part of our excellent team. Okay, so with that said, I will end this session. Thank you so much. You guys have a wonderful time. I would love to see you again in my live classes, in my batch courses. Okay, again, this is Dr. Pooja, and I'm your science educator on Unacademy's platform. You guys have a wonderful time. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.